this video is for class 7 geography, and this is the second part for the industries chapter. In the first video of this particular chapter, you already learned about different types of industries based on their ownership, based on the raw materials that they use, and so on. Today we shall have a look at some factors that play a very important role in the location of an industry. Okay, now this picture shows how an industry looks like, a large scale industry looks like. Okay, now industries cannot be located whenever or wherever we want. Okay, they have to be ideally placed in those strategic locations only because of these features or factors that we will discuss. Okay, firstly, for location of an industry, level land is required, or plain region or plain area is required. Okay, obviously for coming up with a heavy, bulky, large scale industry, a tiny area won't be sufficient, right? An extensive area that is plain would be very helpful for development of an industry. Now, if the area is highly dissected, if there are many mountains, if there are very many hills, then coming up with an industry or building an industry at that particular location would be very difficult, isn't it? So because of that, a large scale level land is required. Then secondly, supply of huge amount of raw material. Okay, now secondary industries or manufacturing industries that produce something new, to make a product, some raw material is required, right? Without the raw material, how the processing would occur? Obviously. So for that, large scale supply of raw materials is required. Okay, so I couldn't enough or emphasize enough on this point. Okay, this point is very much fundamental for the location of an industry. For example, iron ore and steel industry has to be located in the areas where iron ore is mined. That particular industry cannot be located elsewhere hundreds of kilometers away, because transporting that raw crude iron ore from the mining areas to the processing industrial area would incur a huge amount of cost on the final product, right? And that is why mostly industries are located in the areas where raw material is available. Okay, for example, coal is required for manufacturing iron ore, so it will be found in the areas where iron is found in the nature and where coal is found in the nature. Then for food processing industries which produce fresh fruit juices, canned juices, okay, jams and jellies, for them raw material is nothing but different types of fruits, right? So without these fruits, they cannot produce or they cannot process food. So this is the raw material for food processing industries. Similarly, I already gave you the example of iron and steel, and for that matter, any other mineral, okay, say aluminium, all right, say bauxite. Aluminium is mined from bauxite. So these industries will be located very close to the areas where raw material is found. Next, cheap power supply is very much necessary. Now, when industries are already established, they have a very smooth functioning of their machines. And to run those machines, power is required or electricity is required. That can be obtained from tidal power or hydroelectricity. That can be obtained from thermal power, okay, by burning coal. It can be also obtained from nuclear power. Okay, nuclear elements can also be used to generate electricity. So these electricity sources or power sources are required, and that too continuously, regularly. An industry cannot function if there is no electricity supply, right? So this is a key requirement. Plus the electricity should be quite cheap. If the electricity is very expensive, then industry which produces different types of goods, those goods also will be quite expensive. Then next is supply of skilled laborers or manpower. Now, once industry is established, once there are machines or power supply, there is raw material, but people or manpower is required to make those machines work or to work in that particular factory. So for that, skilled laborers are mainly required, because without laborers, industry cannot function. So laborers also should be available in large quantities, and who should know their craft very well. They should be very much well versed and skilled in that particular sector. Then efficient transport network is also very much important and premier. Okay, now transportation network is required to transport or for assemblage of raw material, right? Raw material has to be transported to the industrial areas. So for that, transportation is required. Then once the raw material is processed and the finished product and the final product is manufactured, those products have to be distributed in the market, isn't it? So for that also, efficient transport network is very much mandatory. So this particular modes of transportation can be roadways, it can be railways, okay, and sometimes it can also be waterways. Okay, so here's a picture of a rail wagon which is transporting ore. Then nearness to the market. Okay, just as I said, industries cannot be located very far away from the raw material areas. Similarly, they cannot be located very far away from the market areas. Again, transportation costs can be incurred on the final product if the market is located very far away, because majority of the buyers, they are there in the market. This is where the products will be bought, purchased by the buyers, okay, by the consumers, and that's why the market has to be huge. There has to be demand for those products, and there has to be sale on a very large scale. Then availability of water. Yes, industries require a huge amount of water, sometimes to cool down their machines. Okay, then certain type of industries require water, like textile industry for dyeing their fiber or cloth. Chemical industries, they require water. Okay, paper manufacturing industries require water. So that is why water is the main requirement, and you see that many industries are located in the coastal areas or along a river. Then availability of capital from banks and government. Now, if an entrepreneur wants to come up with an industry, then the main requirement is money, right? Without capital, how can a person go ahead with manufacturing different types of goods, right? So capital or finance or money is very much important, and that is why banking facilities should be very much available. Okay, banking facilities with less interest, so that capitalists and industrialists, they get encouraged to come up with industries. So for that, banks should be available. Okay, commerce should be easily functioning in that particular area. And then lastly, government policies play a very, very important role. Okay, though this point has been put last, you cannot sideline the importance of this point. Okay, government plays a very important role in the establishment of an industry and smooth functioning of an industry. All right, and very good examples here are Startup India boosting entrepreneurship policy. Okay, so this was an idea which was put forth by the Indian government in order to encourage manufacturing in India. Nowadays, we import a huge amount of products from the other neighboring countries of the world. So the focus of the Indian government was to make India a global hub of manufacturing instead of being dependent on the other countries. So this was one policy which was very much commerce friendly, industry friendly. And then here you have the Make in India. All right. Now, Make in India Startup India and Make in India again help very much new entrepreneurs who want to come up with new business ideas, with new industries. Both these policies, they help them and boost their further growth. Alright, so these were some factors that play a very important role in the location of an industry. Thank you.